The world is facing a triple planetary crisis, a crisis of climate change, a crisis of nature and biodiversity loss, and a pollution and waste crisis. And it is a dark cloud looming over our future. So we at UNEP are looking for talent to help us dispel this cloud. And we need the brightest of today's youth to join us. And that's why UNEP, in partnership with the United Nations Volunteers Program, is launching the first cohort of our new Young Talent Pipeline. So if you have a relevant postgraduate degree, if you have at least 3 years of work experience, and if you want to bring fresh thinking to some of the greatest challenges of our time, please apply. We're looking for young talent to work on climate change, on nature-based solutions, on science, on data and digital technologies, on environmental rights, and on so much more. So this is your chance to join us, to help us all work to protect planet Earth. So please, apply to UNEP's Young Talent Pipeline.
Hello and welcome to this live chat. We will be together for the next 30 minutes. Before we start, and to allow other participants to connect, let us know where you are joining from, through the comment or chat window. We will be sharing with you today insights and useful information related to the UNV UNEP Young Talent Pipeline. I'm sure many of you have questions around this initiative. Together with my colleague, Soraya Somadirja, we will try to monitor closely your comments and questions and, at the extent possible, answer them. So please stay with us and engage actively through the chat window. Ask your questions, invite your connections, and tag friends who may be also interested in this initiative. My name is Manuel Brackay, part of the talent team at UN Volunteers Program. I started my career back home with the United Nations Development Program, and this is my third assignment within the UNV program. I've worked before in volunteer recruitment and management. For some years, I was a recruiter, and now I'm part of the talent acquisition team. I'm very glad to be with you today and speak more about the UNV UNEP Young Talent Pipeline. This initiative calls to all dynamic thinkers with minimum 3 years of work experience and, above all, passion for driving UNEP solutions to the triple planetary crisis. On this note, I now invite my colleague Soraya Somadirja to first introduce herself and tell us a bit more about this initiative.
Thanks so much, Manuel. Yes, so I'm Soraya Somadirja. I'm from Indonesia. I work for UNEP as a talent outreach officer, but I started my career with the UN system, I guess, as an intern in UNDP in Uzbekistan over a decade ago. And then since then, I worked for a university, I worked for my government supporting climate negotiations, and then I came back to the UN system through the international UNV specialist modality with UN Climate in Bonn as a volunteer management specialist, and then as an international UNV specialist in Nairobi with UNEP for human resources. So that's how I ended up here. There you go.
Okay. Soraya, can you tell us a little bit more about the UNEP and how the initiative itself?
Yes, I'm very happy to. So the United Nations Environment Program is the global advocate for the environment. We work on solutions to the triple planetary crises, the nature biodiversity loss crises, climate change, and chemical and waste pollution crisis. So to support this action, we have 2 foundational programs on science policy and environmental governance. And we also have 2 enabling programs on finance and economic transitions and digital transformations. We work in 44 duty stations as of now, and our headquarters is in Nairobi, Kenya. So the Young Talent Pipeline is something that UNEP is very excited about. One of the things in general that UNEP is mandated by the UN Environment Assembly and our member states is to increase our geographic diversity in our workforce. So the Young Talent Pipeline is a pipeline that's designed to encourage increased personnel representation with UNEP from all of our member states so that the organization can be better at working on a diversity of solutions to these three triple planetary crises I mentioned. And from this pipeline, our colleagues will eventually be able to be qualified to become staff. We also want to increase our young professionals and have more of a voice from the younger generation because environmental issues is an intergenerational issue. And at the moment, we only have around 10% of our staff are under the age of 35. So through the Young Talent Pipeline, we really want to give an opportunity for people to gain experience in working on UNEP's platforms and portfolios without having to go through the daunting Inspira UN Secretariat application process first. So we want to pull you in through the UNV modality with our partners in UN Volunteers. And then another thing that we want to do is we want to attract people for the jobs that they have because when we're recruiting staff, we have very limited and very specific rules on how we title the jobs. So this is a way for us to advertise the work as it is. And that's why in the Young Talent Pipeline, we have such exciting job titles because it attracts people with those backgrounds and to show that we have mandates to work on those issues. And then we also want to show UNEP as a place to work for those of us who are passionate and wanting to contribute meaningfully to environmental, climate, and pollution issues. We want to have a chance, at least with this first cohort, to work in UNEP headquarters, which is a wonderful duty station in Nairobi in Kenya. And we also want to promote volunteerism as a huge and key component of fulfilling the Sustainable Development Goals, especially the ones related to the environment and climate.
Thank you very much, Soraya. I'm sure many participants of this live chat are even more interested to hear on the initiative. Let me take only 1 minute to stop, especially at one of the elements that you just mentioned, volunteering or civic engagement, as a key component in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. As you may know, UN Volunteers Program is mandated by the UN General Assembly as the volunteering arm of the United Nations. In 2022, UN Volunteers Program mobilized over 12,000 volunteers globally with different agencies, funds, and programs. Many of our UN partners, they recognize us as bringing, as you rightfully said earlier, fresh blood to their teams. Our volunteers portray through their assignments a high level of commitment and motivation, as such being a true inspiration in action for their peers. And as you mentioned, we truly believe that there is a close connection of environment and volunteering agenda. And while we are at this point, I'd like to elaborate a bit more on application and recruitment procedures for this initiative. I'm sure that after this, we will add more to it. But as a starter, there are 12 assignments, all stationed in Nairobi, Kenya, beautiful duty station. And application deadline is 15th of May. So it's in, so to say, 2 to 3 weeks from now. These are all international UN volunteer specialist assignments. As such, all nationalities are eligible to apply. Although my advice is not to wait till the last day of the application deadline, but try to be among the first applicants or do not wait until the application deadline. While applying, you may want to ensure that your application is tailored and suited to the assignment against which you are putting forward your application. You know that one CV fits all may not work that well. Examine carefully the roles and responsibilities and requirements section. And if those match with your skills, qualification, and interest, do apply. Some of you may think like how long it may take from application to deployment. Selected UN volunteers are expected to be deployed in September 2023. So there is a little bit of time to allow our colleagues in UNEP to proceed with selections, and Soraya will explain that after, what will take. UN volunteers are provided with a volunteer living allowance, which is not an income nor paid remuneration, but is a support mechanism to sustain them during their volunteer service and voluntary action. UN volunteers are also provided with travel tickets to take up the assignment and upon repatriation, full medical insurance throughout the duration of the assignment, annual leave, and learning and training opportunities. On this note, I would like to give the floor to Soraya to explain us a little bit more. How do these positions, Soraya, fit within the UNEP teams?
Thanks so much, Manuel, for that description. And I'm sure there people like me who went through the UNV system. We're curious to know what tips and tricks you have, and thank you for that. I did just want to share where do the UNVs fit within the UNEP teams. So when you're working with the team, even if you are a UN volunteer, you're a colleague. You're working on substantive work, as you can see in the description of assignment or the job description. We don't differentiate based on the type of employment that you are with. There are, of course, differences based on the UN Secretariat staff rules and regulations, and then the UNV conditions of service, which I do advise you to read. But through your work, you're contributing to the work plan and of the unit and the mandate, which feeds into the mandate of UNEP as an organization. So these 12 positions are very specific. They're with actually 12 different teams, so we can't really get into each one. But we can share with you the link to all 12. And we just wanted to say that also a thing that we would like to add is that UNEP does have a long experience of recruiting staff either on temporary or fixed term assignments from our international UNVs and national UNVs. We also have our UNVs, national and international, who transition to other agencies within the UN system of staff. So we're quite proud of that. And one of the benefits, I think, for working for working for UNEP through this UNV is to get exposure to the internal UNEP processes. The systems and the tools are day-to-day work, as well as UNVs are very lucky. I say we because I still really relate to being an international UNV. You get a UNV network in the duty station. Kenya happens to be quite a large UNV duty station. So it's not just people in UNEP, it's people in UNDP, UNHCR, et cetera, et cetera. And, based on my experience, for example, I work now as a staff with other former UNVs I worked with in the past, and they're working with other agencies. And UNVs, our senior management, believe that UNVs are integral to the UNEP. You give us your expertise, you give us your insights, your perspectives, and the solutions that we may otherwise not come up with. On the other side, the host organization, UNEP in this case, we share with you how we do things. We give you some work experience in the field that we hope you're passionate about, and widening your professional networks, which is also training in itself. So I hope that inspires you to apply if you're on the fence.
Thank you, Soraya. Actually, when I got to know that we would present together in this live chat, I was particularly happy, especially due to the fact that you were before a UN volunteer, which means I don't have to say much, in the sense that I understand that career progressions are personal choices. I have seen UN volunteers who have come to us, stayed for a few months or 1 year, and then they have continued with their career back home, as well as others like in your case, or some others that I now see in senior positions within the UN. And that makes us even more proud because it shows of the caliber of the UN volunteers when they serve in different agencies, funds, and programs. And I fully agree with you that through the UN volunteer assignment, one gets regional or international exposure, strengthen their networks, and as you rightfully said, sees for themselves how does the UN work from inside. From there, everybody takes their career paths. So once more, thank you for sharing your feedback, and thank you for being still connected with the UN Volunteers, an organization full of values. And myself, I've been with the organization for more than 18 years now, and it shows a lot. So I'm particularly attached to it and passionate about its mission, values, and mandate. Okay, I think we have taken 15 minutes or a little bit more. So now it's only fair to open the question and answer session because our audience needs to know more. And we are here to answer all of those questions. So our colleagues in the background, which I would like to thank for their support, Ursula, Nina, Daniela, Sara, thank you very much. They will bring the questions for Soraya and myself, and we will be pleased to answer them. But dear participants, continue to ask any questions that you may have or express any comments. We will monitor them. So we have a first question. Where can candidates find the list of open assignments for this initiative? And how? Let's answer this one first. I will ask one of our colleagues that is managing the studio and the screen to please project the application source where candidates can apply for UN volunteer positions. It's in our language, we call it Unified Volunteer Platform. So it will come in a minute as in the screen. And while that banner will soon start flying, I will ask a question to Soraya. Soraya, one of the questions that we have got is, are there quotas for member states or countries?
So we don't actually have any specific quotas for member states, Manuel, but given the nature of our work on environmental issues, climate issues, pollution issues, they are global issues. So we would like UNEP's personnel and staff to reflect the diversity of the places that we work. and the member states whom we work with. So there may be many reasons why there are less people from certain regions or countries applying to UNEP, but what we do want to encourage with this pipeline is that UNEP is open for you, and that you should and can start applying to UNV posts with UNEP if you're a bit daunted doing the full, applying for staff positions. Happy to note that another diversity issue is that we do have gender parity targets set by the UN Secretariat in headquarters in New York, the Secretary General. And we're proud to say that we have met or exceeded at all professional and above staff levels, because that's the required. And happy to note that UNV positions are not subject to those targets. But as I understand, UNV has some really interesting statistics on the gender ratios of volunteers globally. So no, we don't have quotas.
Perfect.
We would like, of course, to encourage, especially our colleagues from the Eastern Europe group, from Latin American, Caribbean, please apply also. And then we are also looking for potential applicants from, Western Francophone Africa, Southern Africa, Central regions, Central Africa region, as well as, of course, it's a little bit UNV. I know you also have the same issues finding people from small island developing states as well. We also have that issue, but that's for all, staff and personnel. So we do welcome if you're from those regions, but if you're not, it's UNEP positions as UNV positions are open for everyone globally.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Soraya. Follow-up question. You already started hinting into that direction a little bit earlier in your narrative, and it's about assessment or selection process. How is that going to happen?
Yes. So the selection process traditionally, our hiring units will then get all the long listed candidates or the shortlisted candidates from our colleagues in UNV, who do a really good job, and then we give them an assessment, which is an assessment, a written test on your specific area of expertise. For this particular Young Talent Pipeline, we will do a series actually of assessments, but don't worry. So we will include a written test on your specific area of expertise, because these are 12 different positions. These are tests written by the hiring units. And then if you pass that, there's a recorded video question and answer. And then a situational judgment test, which will be marked externally, not by UNV, not by UNEP. And then finally, an interview with the hiring manager.
Perfect.
So that's why it's going to take a little bit longer, and that's why we hope to onboard the selected candidates together in September or October latest.
Perfect. So once more, application deadline 15th of May, deployment September, latest October, for those who will be assessed positively against, is it the written test, recorded video interview, situational judgment test, and then a simple short interview with the hiring manager. That's beautiful. The next question is career progression at the end of the UNV assignment. I will invite Soraya to share her insight there too, but if I may take the question and say that as anywhere else, there is no guarantee that there will be necessarily a progression in the career, because the volunteering nature of the assignment. I understand that in the human being, we are all constructed as such that we have our internal inner motivations, career paths, one and the other. But first and foremost, for this program, we need passionate and dynamic volunteers who truly want to contribute their time and skills to the triple planetary crisis. So this should be the guiding, so to say, motivation. However, if on the way one would feel and see that the mandate of UNEP, the skills and the expertise would potentially match with a future opening, everything goes usually, not only with UNEP, not only with UNV, but also, in my opinion, with most of the UN agencies through a fair and competitive process. So the answer short is no position guarantee after the UNV assignment, and the long answer is what I said. But maybe Soraya, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, so it's exactly as Manuel said. There's no guarantee because in the UN system, you have to apply for each position, even if you are internal. But UNEP is doing a lot of outreach to external potential candidates, and part of that outreach is teaching people how to get through the Inspira system, which is the UNEP application system, and we are doing the same for our UNVs. We're starting to do the same for our UNVs, sharing the same information to our current serving UNVs, our current serving interns, junior professional officers, as well as other non-staff personnel. So we do want to support you, and of course you don't know what the future holds. So we would love for you to apply to the positions after you are in as a UNV, but we're not going to force you to. Also,
okay, thank you.
And it is also open. It's always open recruitment. So you are competing, and that is global.
Perfect. I have a very quick question that is about, can a person apply to two positions? Definitely. However, bear in mind that when we said tailored applications, we meant that you may want in your application to highlight more those past roles and responsibilities that best match with the position for which you are applying for. So personally, I'm of the school of thought, less is more, but definitely the decision is yours. Another quick answer to the age requirement. Can someone below 27 years of age apply? The answer is unfortunately because based on conditions of service, minimum age to be eligible to apply to international UNV specialist category is 27. But maybe Soraya, you would like to elaborate a little bit further on the age requirements for this special initiative.
Yes, because it's a special initiative, the specialist positions, international specialist positions, are between 27 and 80, and that's what's written in the job description. But it's a young talent pipeline, and we do want to make young professionals a large part of the decision-making process of UNEP. Again, as I mentioned, we only have around 10% of staff under 35, and so we want to encourage younger people to apply to this position. And that's why in the advertising, in the social media, we've been saying, if you're 33 years and under, that's not to say that we're not going to look at your application if you're over 33. But that's also why we're emphasizing only 3 years of work experience, because some of us who are over 33 may have much more, in which case I would encourage you to look at perhaps other UNEP UNV positions. It's not just these 12. So I would also encourage you to look at those UNV positions in UNEP that are not under this pipeline, or even perhaps some staff positions in UNEP, because you probably may qualify. I'd say if you're 33 and younger, please consider applying if you fit the description of assignment, job description, if you meet all the minimums and the job is calling to you. If you say, yes, this is what I've done, this is what I want to keep doing, apply.
Lovely. And that's why I liked to present with Soraya, because my life is easier, because Soraya is calling for applications beyond the initiative that we are talking now. So again, let me reiterate that message and say that if by any chance or means you feel that you are not fulfilling any of the eligibility or other criteria, please have a look at our application system. And as we speak, there are over 200 open assignments where you may consider to become an online or an on-site volunteer with UNEP or with other agencies, funds, and programs. The opportunities are there, and give yourself a chance. We are running out of the time. I suggest that we take one or two last questions, because we promised our audience to stay with us for 30 minutes and we want to keep our promise. So one of the questions that comes is there any training given to volunteers before the assignment? So Soraya, would you like to take the question?
Yes, as I understand it, there are some mandatory trainings that UNVs are required to take prior to onboarding or through the onboarding process. So you will be selected, and then UNV will give you a list of trainings that you have to do, which are actually very useful. And then on UNEP side, we do have a list of mandatory trainings that staff are supposed to take, but they are also open to non-staff. So, interns, UNVs, JPOs, we do encourage you to take those as well. And for staff, you have to do them within 6 months of onboarding. And, the longer you started to work, the less time you have for those types of online trainings. But UNEP is, we are a data-driven organization. We're trying to, increase emphasis on lifelong learning and upskilling. So there are also resources both from UNEP side and UN volunteer side for UNVs in UNEP to continue your, learning whilst you're in your UNV position in UNEP. You just have to make time for it.
Okay, thank you very much.
I hope I answered that correctly, Manuel.
You did answer it beautifully. I love to hear that the UN volunteers are an integral part of your training agenda. And I have seen it myself in many of the field missions that I've been. From the UN Volunteers Program, we provide also some LinkedIn tailored training based on the interest and professional category that UN volunteers fall into, as well as UN volunteers have access to language applications or opportunity to use some other means to learn a local language or to expand their skills in the category where they are serving, but also, why not, in the building into their midterm or long-term career plans. I think that we jump into the last question. Can we have remote work during the time of volunteering?
I can answer that. So the jobs are all, this cohort of the Young Talent Pipeline are all based in Nairobi, so you do have to be at the duty station. There are modalities for flexible work arrangements because which, staff and UNVs can also hop onto, but that is only after you've onboarded, you started working, and it's an arrangement between you and the supervisor, as well as you and your team, because you're not the only person working, and in some cases between you and the Secretary General, because we submit all staff requests on remote work to actually the Office of Human Resources and the Secretary General. They are the ones who do the final clearance. But we do expect you to be here in the duty station. And but the conditions of service are actually quite generous. You have 2.5 days of leave per month. There are a lot of UN holidays, like this April. There's so many UN holidays, and then duty station holidays. And then, but the expectation is that you will be in Nairobi. And then UNV, as Manuel mentioned at the beginning, UNVs, internationally recruited UNVs for international UNV positions, do get a what is called a settling in grant, or when you move from your current location to the duty station. So it's not something that you are paying out of pocket for.
Yeah. Perfect. We are running out of the time, and unless Soraya, you have any other comments, I would like to remind once more that more detailed information on the initiative can be found at the public website of UNEP and UNV. All 12 positions are listed there. Please do follow us in our social media channels. We are actively engaging with the global citizen through LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. So join us in the social media channels. And once more, I would like to thank Ursula, Nina, Daniela, Sarah, and very much so Soraya for being today in this live chat. I take the opportunity to thank all the participants of this live chat, hoping that we have answered most of your questions. And thank you very much. Over to you, Soraya.
Thank you so much, Manuel, for this conversation. I hope for those of you who are on the fence, please do apply. Let me sorry, Manuel, I just want to quickly read the job descriptions. And this is why it's like 12 very different positions. And UNEP is super excited that UNV has been kind enough to let us have these specialist job descriptions. Minerals and metals specialists, education and youth specialists, green building specialists, environmental rights specialist, digital ecosystems interface specialist, geospatial information system specialist, statistical analysis specialist, nature-based solutions specialist, gender and safeguard specialist, ecosystem restoration specialist, climate-induced loss and damage specialist, and circular economy specialist. So please apply if you fit in any of those. And we're really excited to have you work with us. And thank you to Manuel, to UNV, and to colleagues in Human Resources in UNEP and Communications Division in UNEP as well.
Thank you very much, Soraya. We have come to the end of this live chat. Again, to the audience, thank you for being with us. Those that joined late or would like to watch again the video, this will be posted in all social media channels of UNV, primarily LinkedIn, but why not in Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And I'm sure colleagues from UNEP will take care that that is also widely disseminated through their platforms and networks. So again, thank you very much and see you next time.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Volunteerism is a
powerful way
to truly help those in need.
Throughout the world, UN volunteers are inspiration in action. UNV continues to promote volunteerism to tirelessly work with a wide range of UN partners for a better, more equal, and more just world.
We are
United Nations
volunteers.